This KC Sports Night Show is inspired by Neal Jones' Top 5. This time of year, normally Neal does the top 5 local sports stories. We didn't get that this year because turns out test audiences watched top 5s and said they didn't have enough Jared Koller in it. So they said, we're not going to let Neal do it anymore. There's not enough Jared. But here we are. We're bringing it back. So, Neal, these are my top 5 local sports stories of 2024 as we now look ahead to 2025. Folks, this is Neal's first time seeing it. You see it on the screen to your right. He does not approve of this. This is not co-signed by him, okay? He'd probably have Oklahoma beating Alabama, number 1. But we're going to talk about it. And Neal, get your thoughts as we look back on a pretty crazy year.
I think I would have maybe the Missouri football season. As one of the top 5 stories. They sold every game out.
Yeah, had some nice wins, but I don't think they had a program-defining win like they could have had.
No, but it's a story.
Yeah,
it's not as good a story as we hoped it would be. And also, I think KU football was a massive story.
So that I group into number 3 a little bit with the stadium stuff.
Well, okay. Well, they did play at Arrowhead. That was kind of a different deal. So again, I think there was so much excitement and so much of a buildup over KU football that I thought that was kind of big. But I do think definitely with Missouri. I mean, every game I went to, Jared. I mean, even the Arkansas game, the last game of the year, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, they had a big surprise snowstorm. Yeah. They had a really good crowd, and people didn't leave these games. It was important, and we've seen that at K-State forever and ever, that it's a big deal. The fans really see it's a big deal. When they played ASU, I was on the field right before the game kicked off, and the AD was down there, and I said, I don't know that there is an empty seat in this stadium. It was a night game, and he looked around and goes, yeah, I think you're right. They got run. As it turned out, it was ASU played a great football game and beat Kansas State, so it was a disappointing night. But I think those are both 2 pretty big stories. And I think the rise of Avery Johnson, who by the end of the year, I think was better than I ever thought he would be.
Won their bowl game.
Now, but in comparison with what the Royals and Chiefs did for the Kansas City area,
I think also in comparison to last year, though. I think last year you could argue local college football success was maybe the number 2 storyline because Kansas did well, Missouri did well, K-State did well. Year before that, I don't think there was that much. So the headline I put at the bottom, you see there, it was a year of Kansas City sports growth. The reason college football didn't crack my top 5 was because I don't know how much growth there necessarily was from the schools, because I think you can make an argument that all 3 were disappointment. I don't make that argument, but I know some fans of each fan base, specifically Kansas State and Mizzou, since they didn't make the college football playoff, there's a little bit of disappointment. I don't agree, but that's why I kept them down in my top 5.
No, I absolutely agree that they were a disappointment based on what they thought they could do. But that doesn't lessen it significantly because so many people came out. I mean, they drew great crowds.
Yeah.
And as you know, as great as the NFL is and as great as the Chiefs are, more people go to college games every Saturday or on an average in our area, this region of the United States, than go to the pros simply because there are more games.
Yep.
But I thought so that's interesting. But I don't have a quibble at all. I mean, the Super Bowl run, having to go on the road.
Yeah, let's start there with number 1, and we'll kind of work our way down. Neal, I didn't just put. I think arguably the Super Bowl game in itself could be number 1, but I grouped the run together.
Right.
Because, Neal, I think when we look back and when we look forward, I don't know if there will be a more impressive Super Bowl run than what the Kansas City Chiefs had in 2024.
No, I think it was awfully impressive. I mean, I'd seen another team go on the road and do that, but they didn't win the game. So getting to the game was a great success because you had to go in and win. First of all, you have to beat Miami under conditions that were so cold that there was no guarantee that you were going to be able to execute.
Yeah.
You figure you're better than the Dolphins, but there's no
right. But anything can happen.
That's a game where you might fumble 2 kicks or punts, and suddenly Miami's got 2 touchdowns off short fields. So for the fact that they went out and played such great defense, played opportunistic football, didn't turn it over, I thought that was an impressive
and
win.
Beating Tyreek Hill in his return to Arrowhead.
And then on top of that, to be able to go on the road and win at Buffalo, which wasn't as good as they are this year, but was a good team.
Right.
And then winning at Baltimore. Baltimore was a really good football team.
Number 1 seed.
And the Chiefs' defense, I thought, forged those wins in a lot of ways. They got enough offense to win, but the defense was unbelievable. No, I agree with you. I thought it was a great run. The only disappointment for me was, and it might be because one, I don't know Las Vegas very well, and two, I expected so much. It's the entertainment capital of North America. Nobody knows how to put on a show and have a group come in and have a great time than Las Vegas, and yet the weather was a lot worse than I thought it would be, and none of the casinos on the Strip welcomed the media. I thought, boy, these people are going to know how to do this.
And we were just regular old people.
I mean, they were, every time you'd set up, they'd go, you can't be there. Well, where can I be? Well, go to the walkway above the street.
Walking.
Because above the street, you're not in that casino and you're not in our casino. You're technically over the Las Vegas city, and I'm not going to turn you in. They won't turn you in to the city. So we would do live shots up on these walkways in the wind and cold, and a lot of people doing this because they were with people they shouldn't be.
Yeah, a lot of people are talking about, Las Vegas should host this all the time. From a media perspective, I wouldn't be okay with that, but maybe some fans liked it.
I'm sure some fans liked
but it didn't take over the city like it does pretty much every other town.
Listen,
so we'll see what happens in New Orleans.
Miami knew how to host it. You had a beach, so if you went to the beach, you had a good live shot, and you would always find fans of either the 49ers or the Chiefs wherever you went.
You went to the beach? You did a stand-up on the beach? I remember that.
I did live shots on the beach. In fact, I did it with a family from a husband and wife from Lee Summit. And my wife went on the trip, and then,
Folks, that's how old I am. I remember Neal doing live shots from the first Chiefs Super Bowl, all right? And we're on what now, 5? This year would be 5?
Well, no, I thought you meant the first Super Bowl, 1967, which I did not do live shots from. However,
I don't know, maybe.
I watched that game, though. I was fascinated by that game. I remember that vividly.
No, but then with the Super Bowl itself, Neal, I think you can make an argument for each Super Bowl win, right? The 49ers comeback the first time around was incredibly impressive, and that was more unprecedented, and that was the story of that run, as that team erased double-digit comebacks in each game. Then the Eagles game, I think you can make an argument that was the best game because Mahomes got hurt, right? We didn't know what he was going to do. He was limping. They came back then as well, and that was even more high-scoring. But this one, the distinction of going to overtime and being – like this was the closest they came to losing this Super Bowl because the Eagles won. They came down. The game was tied.
Kadarius, Tony – punt return, and KT, superstar.
Yes, I mean, and there was that, but then McCole Hardman, Neal, superstar, game-winning, Mr. Walk-Off. I
you
think that was
rank the
impressive.
Surprise, not the performance, but the surprise. What was the biggest surprise? Was it Damian Williams taking over and probably being worthy of an MVP with a couple of touchdowns late, for including that little swing pass where he went to a gear that nobody had shown, with the exception of Tyreek Hill, for 2 touchdowns. That performance in the first win over the 49ers, or the Kadarius Toney exploding on that punt return when they looked like they were in big trouble in the fourth quarter to set up a touchdown, or McCole Hardman, who comes back from the dead with the Jets to end up scoring the winning touchdown for the Chiefs.
So I was not because Damian Williams came out of nowhere, but it started in the postseason. He has more rushing touchdowns than any running back in Chiefs postseason history. He flipped on a gear before that Super Bowl, like we first saw in the AFC Championship game against New England the year they lost in Mahomes' first year starter. So that wasn't as surprising. Kadarius Toney didn't have he wasn't as vilified in that Super Bowl.
If they brought him back, if somebody got hurt, would you bring him back?
No. And I think people might lose their mind if that happened. I'm not as anti-Kadarius. But McCole Hardman, if you remember, Neal, not just the Jets, he fumbled at the goal line in Buffalo. You remember? And so then for him to come back and catch the game winner, I think that was the most
What about Denver?
Surprising.
Where they got destroyed.
That one Sky Moore also dropped a touchdown. They just didn't want to win because you were on the sidelines. Okay.
He fumbled that punt, and he even said after the game, he goes, "That's on me."
But that's part of
the
narrative.
So how do you rank it? So you got
one Hardman, 2 Toney, 3 Williams. But
okay.
Neal, it begs the question: who's going to be the next KT, Hardman, Williams this postseason? We'll talk about that on our 2025. Top story.
That's an interesting thought. Who's going to be the stand-up? First of all,
because this year it's been a lot more well-balanced. Hasn't been as one-person dominant.
I am so afraid that they are going to lose a game they shouldn't lose in the playoffs. I am afraid But
that's so rare, Neil.
That this thing is going to go out with a whimper.
But there's no precedent for that.
Well, Cincinnati game.
That was an AFC Championship game, though.
Well, that's what I'm saying is they're going to lose a playoff game that they should have won, and they should have won that one. I am afraid.
Okay.
I think that this thing's set up. Their defense isn't as good, but I think they found something on offense. And I
agree.
I hope they can.
We're talking about the Super Bowl, Neil. They're in a better position now than they were at this time a year ago. It's not even close. So I wouldn't rule anything out. We'll talk more about that in the number 4. My number 4 story. You see the Chiefs' close calls. But Neil, number 2. Listen, everybody knows I'm a Royals homer, but Neil,
they made the postseason?
They won a postseason series.
The Baltimore thing was a postseason?
They won 2 out of 3 games in Baltimore.
That's why you were crying.
That's
why you were crying. I couldn't.
I watched the
It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. For once, you're right. It was unbelievable.
Because Neil, not just the run, not just the season. 3rd time in 39 years, Neil, that the Royals made the postseason. I think because 14 and 15 was only a decade ago, some people forget about the perspective of 39 years, Neil. The Royals organization has only made it to the postseason 3 times. This year was one of them. I think that alone gets to number 2. But, Neil, that's not the whole story. They lost 106 games the year before.
I remember that.
And so it's one of the greatest turnarounds in baseball history. The first team ever to lose 106 and make the postseason. First team ever to lose 100 and win a postseason series. Neil, for me, this was an easy number 2.
No, I think you're right. I absolutely think that the way they played, they stumbled a bunch. They were not a powerhouse team, but they found a way to get it done. And for them to win that series in Baltimore was unbelievable. And then, wouldn't you agree? They were basically one more hot hitter away from beating the Yankees.
Well, and remember, game 1, they got housed by the replay call at second base. Remember, they ruled Jazz Chisholm safe when he was actually out. And if they win that game, they come back to the K up 2-0.
I didn't know who it was. I just remember it was some scumbag Yankee.
Who was then booed. So, and listen, their losses were close losses. Even at the K, they just, as you said, they couldn't hit. And the Yankees, of course, go on to the World Series. But it's the postseason, but winning a postseason series, Neil, because as you said, had they made it, it still would have been special. But if they go and get swept in Baltimore in the middle of the day, wouldn't have been I would have still cried. But it actually going out there and beating an Orioles team that a lot of people thought was really good and sweeping them, I think we will look back on. Now, Neil, let me say this. If the Royals make
First of all, my name is Neil, not Nil.
Neil?
You keep saying Nil.
Shout out Breland Moore.
It's really driving me crazy here.
Nil? If the Royals make the postseason 8 out of the next 10 years, I don't know if this season will be as significant. But I look at it as in the context of the franchise and how rare this is as to why it was significant, what they did. And they did it with great pitching.
Would you agree that the actions of the ownership and the owner of the Royals affected the attendance and affected the people's attitude towards this team?
Yeah.
That takes us to number 3, which is the stadium question. And I believe that, first of all, I think had the vote been in August, it might have passed.
Yeah.
But then now this dog and pony show, and I hate to say that because I don't know Mr. Sherman very well. I know he's a Kansas Cityan who was a season ticket holder. You want to root for him. I don't, obviously, I've met him a couple of times, not met his wife. But the bottom line is that I think a lot of people view them with suspicion. First it was going to be downtown to help downtown. We need to do something to help our city. And the next thing you know, they're talking about going out there by the Sprints, by the old Sprint campus at 119th and Knoll.
After it failed.
Yeah, after it failed. So now they're talking about that. And a lot of the people in Kansas City, Missouri, privately are telling me this we feel like we've kind of been bushwhacked. We think that this guy, this is not what he was telling us. And so now you've got, maybe it'll be at the Legends. And
I don't think that. But people have the right to change opinions, especially when given new information like the vote not passing. I think it's an interesting question, though, because attendance this year was not good for the Royals based on what their record says. Now, most of the time you see that bump the next year. So if they struggle again next year,
then we'll know.
Even with that said, in September, I was not pleased with the fan attendance. I don't blame anyone. It's expensive nowadays, but it wasn't what you would like to be. I think when you bring up Sherman, though, you have to give him credit for signing Michael Wacha, Seth Lugo, Hunter Renfroe, spending more money than the organization has ever spent, signing Bobby Wood Jr. to long-term contract.
Right, I agree.
And the immediate results, Neil, with the help of J.J. Piccolo, was an absolute success.
The decisions he's made in many, many ways on the baseball side have been good decisions. On the business side, they fired a lot of people who had been there a long time, who were really good at their job. Mm-hmm. And so we're all like, well, it's his business. And a lot of that happened in the wake of basically all of the bloodbath financially that baseball, well, all sports went through, but especially baseball went through with the COVID, with the pandemic. So he had to cut. I get it. He fired a lot of people who'd been around who were really good at their jobs. And so that makes a lot of people kind of go, okay, well, let's see what he does. Well, baseball-wise, I agree with you. I think a lot of the decisions that he's made have been really good decisions. But in all other ways, it's like, what is he doing? All of us want to get behind something.
I can't go that far yet.
We want to get behind something and say, we're okay. You say you have to have a new stadium. Pick a spot that everybody agrees on, and let's get behind it.
Right.
He didn't do that.
Well, they picked a spot, but it wasn't well communicated.
They picked a spot and then it moved, or it might be
exactly.
It might be in North Kansas City. Which
no. I'm talking about for the vote where they did say this will be the spot,
but they didn't do it to the last second.
Right. Exactly. That's what I mean with the way it was communicated, and even with weeks to go, they changed about where the different streets. I agree, and that's the number 3. Like that was a big story this year, and that's where like if the Royals continue to make the postseason, I think we'll look back on 2024 and look more at the stadiums being a bigger deal because Neil, it wasn't just the Royals. The Chiefs also got voted down. They were a part of that, and
they got drugged down by the Royals. No question about it.
I agree, but that's still part of it.
It wasn't the Royals. They got drugged down by so many question marks surrounding the downtown ballpark.
But still, Neil, now they're talking about going to Kansas. Now they're talking about moving. This was the time where they said, hey, if you want to stay, vote for us, regardless of what the Royals. And after a Super Bowl, the town said no. Yes, there's context to that, but that is the bottom line. And then also at
what
Arrowhead,
do your parents think? Your parents live up north, right?
Yeah.
What do they think? Where do they want the ballpark?
Well, and so they didn't have a vote. I I think would have liked it
what
to
I'm
stay
saying
at,
is, as
they would have
fans,
liked it to stay at Kauffman. But
I agree.
Just don't think
that's what I want. What does your imaginary girlfriend want?
Olivia, I hope you're not watching this.
What does she want? What? Because she's a Northlander too, right?
No, she lives in Kansas. She wants it in Kansas. Blue Valley Northwest grad. Shout out Huskies. Skis up. But no, I don't think – I understand why they don't want it at Kauffman Stadium because it's not making the money that it could make elsewhere.
Yeah, because it's a business deal to give the ownership the land around the ballpark. Right. It has nothing to do with baseball
and they own a baseball team. I get it.
Has nothing to do with the fans.
I think they could have more attendance if they had a downtown ballpark. That I think absolutely.
Where would we park? And that's the only question I have. I love the idea of a downtown ballpark.
It wouldn't be as much parking, but it'd be enough for the majority of the games. Would it be tough during the playoffs? Yes. But how many games is that? For your average night at the ballpark, I think it'd be okay with public transportation and the way downtown is becoming. Listen, a lot of people disagree with me. I'm not saying you're wrong. That's just my opinion. But Neil, also at the Truman Sports Complex this year, Kansas football played at Arrowhead. That was unique. You were out there for a game and grouping in the stadium buzz, Neil, the Kansas City Current opened up CPKC Stadium on the riverfront. They hosted the NWSL Championship. When you bundle all this together, Neil, a seismic year of stadium buzz that people agree and disagree with.
The best soccer facility in the Kansas City area remains Children's Mercy Park because it is so unbelievable. Yeah. But there is no question that people have people have fallen in love with CPKC Stadium. They love it. And the parking, my wife and daughter went to a game courtesy of CJ, who used to work at Channel 5, who now works for the Current, and got my wife some tickets because she likes my wife, hates me, likes my wife. So my wife, my daughter's boyfriend, and a friend of my wife's, they went out for a match, and they said the parking was no problem. They parked in the River Market. There was a shuttle bus right there. They walked to it.
If they're willing to walk that far, why wouldn't they be able to walk that far for the Royals downtown?
I think as long as you feel safe. What I was going to say is she said there was security everywhere. They felt very safe.
That's important.
And that's the thing is you leave, say you're out there with your kids and you leave in the 6th inning because it's a school night and you got to leave early. Well, at Kauffman Stadium, you feel pretty safe walking out into the parking lot in the 6th inning because everybody's still inside for the most part. It can be kind of empty outside, but there's security and you feel safe. There's lights.
Yeah.
You have to walk across downtown with 2 young children.
Sure. That's where they've got work to do to help answer those questions that I don't think they did for this last vote. Either way, though, the fact that it's one of the first times the vote had been turned down, and that the last time was the rolling roof, 2 decades ago. So it'll be interesting to see what goes next.
And, that was kind of thrown in as this way you can vote yes for the stadium.
Yeah.
Redo, but that'll give you a chance to say, but we're not giving you everything.
Yeah.
And there were people who told me that was why it was there. Mr. Hunt, Lamar Hunt, said, no, this is very important to us. We want it. But there were people that were for the stadium redo who were like, look, that gives people a chance to take a middle ground.
No,
You're not going to give them everything. So it worked out. And I think that the new stadium, I think in many ways is really, really nice. I don't like the press box being so high. It affects me less now that I'm on the field freezing and getting wet while you're upstairs eating. And
I've only been throw Marley under the bus, not me, all right?
I heard that you'll do like one story and eat 25 hot dogs. Okay.
That's
25 to 1 is your ratio.
It's funny. When I was here working 20 hours a week with Andrew Carter and Tom Martin as just a web guy, Neil didn't talk to me then. I was just, I was intern.
I didn't want to talk to you tonight. They told me I had to. I didn't want to talk to you now.
That is when I ate a lot of hot dogs. Now Neil's forced to talk with me because I'm big full-time J. Cole. Either way, year of growth for Casey Stadium, for the Royals and the Chiefs. And then it brings us to the 2024 regular season, Neil. I separate that because I still think that was a massive story. If it was just a ho-hum regular season, okay, we get that every year. But Neil,
it's
this
15-1. How
exactly?
How is that ho-hum?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know if it'd crack it if it was ho-hum. But this, to me, not just the 15-1, but the way they got there, in that this was one of the most entertaining, dramatic regular seasons in Chiefs history because of so many close finishes that they found a way to win every single time, with the exception of one.
Yeah, it's unbelievable what the referees have done for them. If you look around and pay attention to what they're saying around the country, and people will question me. I'll go on these radio shows around the NFL, and they're like, "Look, can you just admit the fact that Patrick Mahomes just can't be touched?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Just like all the other quarterbacks. You think Tom Brady could be touched?
Yeah.
They changed the rules because the Chiefs safety came in and blew up his knee. And so they changed the rules. Oh, you can't tackle people below the just quarterbacks. Just quarterbacks. Everybody else blow them up, hit them, step on them.
They changed the overtime rules because the precious Buffalo Bills didn't have a chance to beat the Patriots beat the Chiefs in that 13-second game. Whereas when the Chiefs lost to the Patriots in the AFC Championship game,
that's Tom. We love Tom.
Yeah, exactly.
Tom's great.
And in that game, Tom Brady got hit, and they called a roughing the passer on a completely dumb. I agree. That drives me crazy. But
it ain't football,
Neil,
boys.
They find a way through all of this. They're the most hated team in the NFL because they keep winning despite everybody hating them.
I'll tell you one thing. It makes shooting the games a lot tougher because you can't – if you're up by 4 touchdowns and they're like, God, where is Neil on the sidelines?
Neil, no one's
you're up in the press
that.
box and you're like looking, where is Neil?
What's
going
for my
on?
Hot dog and my
no,
cookie.
you're talking to your imaginary girlfriend. Okay, no, I'll be over there tonight later on, and I'll bring a Coke from McDonald's, and we'll have a great time. But I'm saying, you look for me. You can't not. You have to shoot every play.
Yeah,
you should shoot every play anyway, because someone might get hurt. Did you get the Mahomes injury? No, I was going to get a cup of coffee up the tunnel because I was freezing. So you should shoot all the plays, but this year you have to, because how many games went down to the very last play? Not the last minute, but the last play. Maybe 5 or 6?
Yeah, I think it was 7. I could be wrong. Either way, a lot of them are majority close games. And Neil, that's why I am more confident than I think some people heading into the postseason, because I see that as a sign of a great team, that they weren't able to play well and still find a way to win. Because in the playoffs, they may not play their best game, but they aren't going to be as panicked at the end as maybe some other teams will.
No doubt about it. Was it? I think it was Tom Brady or Tony Romo, one of the people that everybody hates here in town, on a game, a Chiefs game, said, one of the things they're doing is you try to coach up these scenarios. Okay, in practice, okay, you got 25 seconds, and we got the ball at the other team's 40-yard line. You have 25 seconds, and you got to kick a field goal. So you're running plays, and you have no timeouts, and you're doing – well, the Chiefs have been doing that for real. Look how many ways they've won games this year. They've won it on defense when they were able to make a play, or the guy catches the football week 1 and his foot goes out of bounds for the Ravens. Or they kick a field goal, long-range field goal in the last play of the game to win week 2 against the Bengals. I mean, they have they've played out these scenarios for real. And so the argument is that they will, for once, you're right, they will be better prepared, more tested when they go to the playoffs and have to play for real.
And it's thanks to someone who's getting no MVP love because individually he doesn't have the numbers, but he has captained the Chiefs to a 15-1 record, and that is the reigning Super Bowl MVP, Patrick Mahomes. And, Neil, that is my fifth story, is that this city is filled with more MVPs and more MVP candidates than I think you could argue maybe ever. When you talk about Patrick Mahomes, Super Bowl MVP, Temwa Shawinga, NWSL MVP for the Kansas City Current, Bobby Witt Jr., luminous runner-up for MVP. That not a single third-place vote. Aaron Judge got all 30 first-place votes. Bobby Witt Jr., all second-place votes. Seth Lugo, runner-up for Cy Young, which is the pitching equivalent of MVP. Travis Kelce, not an MVP in like the voting, but he's up for Walter Payton Man of the Year.
Well, he did win the fan vote for the NFL Pro Bowl.
There you go.
He was the top finisher.
And he's a massive off the field star as well. So in many ways, he's a Chiefs MVP. It's like we are filled with stars. Salvador Perez won the Roberto Clemente award, which is basically the Walter Payton Man of the Year, something no one else ever won.
It's fabulous. Well, let me ask you something. Let's go back to Bobby Witt. If Bobby Witt Jr. plays in a ballpark that it's easier to hit home runs, if he plays in a launching pad stadium like Yankee Stadium, although, of course, it's set up more for left-handed hitters with a short porch, you can hit the ball out to left field at Yankee Stadium like you couldn't do in the old days, the old Yankee Stadium. If he played and he upped his home run total, do you think he comes closer? I think he does.
Well, it depends on how much everything else comes down, because a lot of, he's so great at hitting triples that are doubles for most players and hitting doubles that are singles for most players because of Kauffman, one, because of his speed, obviously, but also because of Kauffman Stadium and how big the outfield is, that I can't say for certain.
The morons in New York, there are a lot of idiots in baseball, and I'm talking even media pundits. All they know are home runs and strikeouts. Home runs and strikeouts. That's all they care about. And they don't care about playing. They don't care about playing total baseball, which is advance the runner, put the ball in play. Bobby Witt Jr. doesn't strike out very much, and he's got power to all fields. I agree, but I do think if he hit more home runs and didn't play in a ballpark that was so hard to hit home runs. I think
that's part of his allure, is that he's so well-rounded. He's arguably the most well-rounded player in the game when you factor in his defense and his
Ohtani.
Last year, Ohtani only was designated hitter. So last year is one of the most well-rounded.
Ohtani is
talking to a Dodger fan here.
But Ohtani's pretty special.
No, Ohtani greater than Bobby Witt Jr. Obviously, I'm not saying that.
Oh, do you think so?
I do.
He didn't play in the field last year, right?
He was incredible. Not as much in the World Series though. Shout out Freddie Freeman. Arguably best national sports moment of the year was his iconic grand slam at Dodger Stadium in Game 1 of the
For
World
anybody
Series.
who hates the Yankees.
Oh,
it's fabulous.
That was great, but no, Bobby Witt Jr. is a bona fide MVP, and heck, even Matt Couturier finished runner-up for Manager of the Year.
Don't you feel like you got the right guy managing this group?
Yeah,
I've liked him. Even when they were so bad his first season, lose 106 games, he was so class and didn't make excuses and wasn't all defensive. I think he's the absolute right guy to manage this team.
Fits with JJ Piccolo, and I think I was about to say the future is bright, but I don't.
We only have 7 seconds. I want you to say, Neil, you're right, and I was wrong on most of this. Just say it.
Neil, you were wrong on most of this, and I was right. Was that what you wanted?
If you and your imaginary girlfriend ever get married, you're going to have to learn to give in and tell them what they want to hear.
This is the Olivia show. I tell you what, this is taking a turn. Either way, it was.
I thought you said her name was Wendy.
No, I just go to Wendy's a lot. When they used to have the 4 for $4, now it's like 4 for $9 instead of 4 for $4. But either way, fun 2024.